What are seller concessions, Tracy?
Seller concession is when a seller pays for certain costs associated with purchasing a home for the buyer. And concessions could make your property more attractive to buyers or lead to a better or faster offer. They could be examples, could be covering somebody's loan origination or some points buy down so they could get a better rate on their home. It could be covering some homeowners association fees in the future for a new buyer. And it can be the professional fees that go to agents and appraisers, lots of different things. And like you said, Tigo, lenders have some rules on how much concessions can be provided by a seller to a buyer.
Yeah, and so there's limits. It does depend on the loan type. I think 6%, I've heard 3%. It depends. And when we're talking percentages, we're talking percentages of the purchase price. So if you're a buyer, for example, and you're putting together an offer and you want to get some help with your closing costs or maybe your brokerage, your buyer broker fee, which you can do, you can use seller concessions to pay your broker if you're on the buy side. You can ask for those, but you want to know what the limits are because you don't want to ask for more than that the loan will allow, right?
You don't want to leave money on the table basically by over asking for concessions that you can't really use in the end.
Since we're talking about buyers, what should buyers know when they're putting together an offer and where would it be appropriate for them to ask or not ask? Do they have to wait for the seller to offer concessions?
No, it can be worked into an offer, right? A lot of times we know what a buyer needs. We've talked to their lender. We know what they need to be able to confidently move forward with putting a solid offer in on a home. And that's where we would structure it to ask the seller for those things.
And we see it a lot with VA loans because VA loans are a zero down payment loan, but they
Yep,
still might get closing costs on that, right?
that's right. Yep.
So that's a way for a VA buyer to really get into a house with zero money out of pocket. They have zero down payment. Again, that's the beauty of the Veterans
Right.
Administration loan, but they can maybe ask the seller to pay any of their closing costs.
Right, because a lot of times, even though it's zero down payment, there are still closing costs associated with buying a home, right? It could be home inspections, it could be appraisal, it could be your loan origination fee, things like that are typically buyer paid costs when you go to close on a home.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, I think the thing to remember for buyers is, hey, everything's negotiable. You can ask whatever you want. Now, if it's a hot property that just came on the market yesterday, it may be different. If it's a property that's been on the market a while, maybe, or whatever it is, you might be in a better negotiating position.